Hey guys, it's Shawn. Let's talk about sending your business partner packing. Now, this is a fun topic in that you might be getting some relief, but it's also a very serious topic in that there could be a lot of legal consequences and complications from ending a business partnership. So, we're going to look at kind of the overview of different ways this happens. In the course of my legal practice, I deal with a lot of business partnerships, and unfortunately, part of it sometimes is exiting a partnership. Sometimes we have an existing partnership and people want to voluntarily go their ways, but sometimes business partners can just no longer get along, and we need to find a way to separate out the partnership. So a lot of complications come from it. We're going to give you some ideas on how to get out of your partnership if you're upset with yours. This will give you some ideas of what the roadmap might be. All right. We'll be talking about some legal issues. Obviously, exiting a partnership, you need to get legal advice from somebody licensed in your state that understands your documents, understands your situation. It's going to give you a high-level overview, give you some ideas, give you some thought, but you really need to get detailed advice. It's also not financial or investment advice. Don't terrible partners make you angry? If you're watching this video, you probably are angry at your business partner. You're probably wondering why you got into this in the first place. You might have some self-doubt or some regret from dealing with it, but you feel probably like you've been wrong. That's what most people do, and that's where most business partnerships fall apart, is one person in the partnership, or maybe both partners in the partnership, feel like they've been disrespected. And maybe there's more people. Two is the kind of classic example, but a partnership could be more than two people. But bad business partners make you angry because you're lifting the weight, you're doing the work, you're building the business. Maybe they're not doing their part, right? And you need something different in your world. So most people are angry, and that's a normal emotion. We've got to understand that. We've got to compartmentalize that. We don't want to act out of pure anger. We do want to think about our long-term emotional health. And a lot of times that's part of why these business relationships need to be ended, because long-term, they're not good for you financially. They're not good for you emotionally, which can turn into physical stuff too, right? So we need to understand the holistic piece of these are real problems. We can't just keep kicking the can if that's what's been happening. But we do need to understand that anger is there. In a lot of cases, it is a justified anger. So how do we get this partner out of here? Sometimes things just have to end, right? We have to figure out how to get rid of them. So let's face the reality of things have to end. Let's look at different options for ending things that may be possible, may not be possible in your situation, again, depending on your situation and your documents. One way is to fire or eject them. Some partnership documents, LLC agreements, partnership agreements, whatever might be the governing document, some will have a provisions to fire or eject somebody based on certain conditions or votes, right? You may be able to just get rid of your partner under the partnership documents. Now, they may continue to be an owner, in which case they may become a free rider on the future, but you may be able to stop paying them a salary or a payment for participating in the business. All depends on the documents. So one of the first options you're generally going to consider is just, can we get them out of here under our existing legal documents without getting into other theories and ideas and workarounds? Can we just directly do what we want to do? And if we can, that might be our best option. Again, you're usually going to consider a range of options and pick the one you think in your situation is the best. But if it's on the table and it's available under documents, just firing the person or ejecting them from the partnership may be possible. Sometimes there's morality clauses. Sometimes there's bad behavior clauses in these documents. If you weren't very careful about your drafting, you may have picked up a form, might have it in there. Or maybe you filed the thing away and forgot about it. So let's look at that as the first possibility. Another possibility is a buyout. And this either could be a negotiated buyout where you go to the partner and say, hey, I'd like you to leave. I'm going to offer you this much money to get out of here. Or it may be a contractual buyout. Maybe you did get this in your documents. When I work with partners that are forming businesses at the outset, one of the things I often encourage them to do is to have exit provisions with buyouts in there. We need to be looking to the future and the fact that there may be a buyout in the future, and that we want to figure out how that's going to work mechanically, right? Who makes the offer? How is the offer documented? How do we compute the price, et cetera, and how does the buyout get processed after the fact? So if you've got that in your agreement, that might be a good option for how to do it. But regardless, usually, even if you have a buyout in your document, you might be able to negotiate something separately. Maybe that formula isn't working. Maybe that number's too high. And maybe you can negotiate a separate deal with the partner and get them out for a less number. Usually, if you can get all the key people to agree, you can amend your partnership documents. So you could just come up with a new solution now, even if it doesn't match what you had in the past, as long as, again, everybody agrees to what's happening and amends those documents. Another option is a squeeze out. And now this can be a much uglier option. This usually comes up in the case of corporations, although depending on your documents, it may be available in other types of entities. But one thing you can do with your partner is force them out through what we call a squeeze out. And that's a process where you basically cause their shares to no longer exist. So let's say, for instance, we have a corporation where we have, somebody who has 1,000 shares and somebody who has 2,000 shares, and there's another shareholder that has 3,000 shares. And the 3,000 share holder decides that they don't want the other two there. Now, assuming they can get the votes on the board, etc., to do it, what they would do is they would do a merger and do a recapitalization of the company, where they do a reverse stock split. Normally, a stock split, you give more shares for each share, but what you do is a reverse stock split, and you give one share for the 3,000 shares. And so what happens is that stockholder that has 3,000 shares now has one share. They'll be the only shareholder. The other two won't have a whole share. And so usually, depending again on your state law and your governing documents, those people get rounded down to zero, and they're squeezed out of the company. Now you'll have to pay them for that privilege, but you've now got rid of your partner. So depending again on your cap table, your ownership situation, and what your state law and governing documents say, one option for getting rid of your partner is to restructure the company in such a way that they get forced out of the company. You may also do this, I mentioned it briefly, I started going on a different track earlier. You might do it through a merger. And sometimes when you do a merger, one company survives, one company doesn't survive, and then you have a chance to restructure. Again, you need proper authorizations. There's going to be fiduciary duty issues. There's a lot of complication here, but it is an option. I'm just getting you options on the table here so that you can talk with your counsel and work through it. Another option is to leave and restart. Can you exit the business? And a lot of that's going to be dependent on non-competes, contractual language, other things. But can you, as one of the partners, leave and then just restart a new business? That is sometimes a possibility. You've got to look at fiduciary duties. You've got to look at proprietary information. You got to look at what assets are deployed. But the concept of you exiting the partnership, leaving the existing partnership as it is, and then starting a new business where you perhaps compete against that old partnership is a possibility. Again, fraught with some legal challenges, some analysis is going to have to be done here. You're going to have to understand your contractual agreements and risk and common law principles, particularly in the jurisdiction that you're operating in and where you're incorporated. But another option for you, renegotiate. And we have seen this be done as well. This is usually not a great option if you're not happy with your business partner, you don't like the way things are going, to get down and sit down at a negotiation table and rework the partnership. Usually it's not a fun option, usually a difficult option, but we've seen it done successfully. We have seen people sit down, either themselves or usually through lawyers, where they rework the partnership documents in a way that is survivable for everybody going forward. And it may be a splitting of the business, maybe a wind down, maybe a buyout, but you can go in and do a renegotiation with your partner. Get to the table, figure out what to do. Because usually what's happening is the business is suffering in the background. When there's a partnership dispute going, usually the business is not thriving, which should be a motivation for everybody to reach some type of solution or settlement. What you really need to do is get your documents out and call your lawyer. So much of this is going to depend on where your company is formed, possibly where you're operating, what documents exist, what has been signed, what everybody has agreed to. So you got to look through all those documents. You may want to do a preliminary analysis, but your lawyer is going to know some of these additional layers of things, such as fiduciary duties, state law overlays, principles that have worked in different lawsuits in different states. And they're going to be able to help you craft a solution based on the things that are not inside the document. So let's bring this all together. It is not fun to be in a dispute with your partner, but getting that dispute over and moving forward may be great for your mental health, and it may open up future opportunities. So it's something you want to deal with. It's pulling the Band-Aid and getting the pain over with sooner than later. So I encourage you to look at it. I encourage you to think about biting the bullet. Obviously, you got to do an analysis and understand where things lay before you make the decision. But usually people do not regret ending a bad business relationship. Look forward to seeing your comments below. Feel free to comment generally. Please don't put confidential information in the comments. Feel free to subscribe, ring the bell for notifications if you want more content for business owners and business leaders. Also, please like the video and share it if you know anybody who would enjoy it, because we always enjoy bringing more people up to speed on these very important issues. All right, folks, I'll see you for another video very soon.